Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wild Free Will podcast. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to ask you a question. So I want you to take a second and think about this, please. When was the last time that you took a deep breath? Now, I've asked you this question before on the podcast. I will ask you again, forevermore, amen. But it's important to the conversation that we're going to be having today. So was it today? Was it yesterday? Was it this week? Was it, I don't remember when? I want you to think for a second about when the last time was that you just really stopped and took a deep breath. What's interesting about this tool, okay, because the conversation that we're going to be having today centers around tools and the ways that we use them. The thing that's interesting about this tool is that it is innate to us as humans. It's something that every single person has access to, right? It is something that can help us navigate our stress response when we're in flight, fright, fawn, or freeze mode. Fight. It can help us to regulate our nervous system, and it is completely free. Okay? Doesn't cost us a damn thing. We don't have to do anything different to be able to take a deep breath. And yet it's something that we don't do with any kind of regularity. Why is that? I'm curious. Why is it that this tool that has an insane amount of benefits and that is something that is so easily and readily available to us is one of the last things that comes to mind when we are in the middle of a triggering situation? And I think there's a lot of things, there's a lot to be said around this. One of the things is that we are not necessarily trained how to take care of ourselves when we're in a stressful situation, and that's inevitably part of it. We don't necessarily remember to tap into the tools that we already know. Okay. But it's also this idea of taking the simple things for granted. So because this tool is so easy, because this process is so simple, we tend to almost bypass it or to put it on the back burner as if it was less important than other tools. You're going to see me checking my notes today for those of you watching because I have notes for today and I'm trying to keep everything straight. So yeah. We often expect that the tools that we use, especially the ones that will have the biggest impact, to be the ones that are most kind of energy intensive. So we are trained in society. We've had this conversation on the podcast before. We will have it again also. But we are trained to believe that the harder we work, the more likely we are to achieve a very specific or desired result. Okay. We've talked about this actually very recently. And this is especially prevalent for people growing up in the West. So if we have that kind of idea already on board and we believe that the tools that we need to use have to be intensive, hard, time-consuming, complicated, or complex, it's normal then that the simple tools are the ones that kind of get discarded. But the simple ones tend to be the ones that have the most immediate and I think biggest impact on us, right? Taking a deep breath can change your energy from like that. It can change it so fast. And yet we are always in this kind of constant struggle mode, I don't know what to do. No, you do know what to do because you could stop and just take a deep breath and it would automatically change not the situation, but certainly your energy around the situation. Why am I out of focus? Why am I out of focus? Okay, it's a little bit better. So it would definitely change your energy around the situation. And then from that different energy, you could approach whatever it is that you're dealing with in a totally different way, right? But we tend to be more attracted to this big story of how we have to do all of these things in order to make a change and achieve what we want and so on and so forth. But so much of what is really just good and useful and beneficial to us is also innate to us as humans. Sleeping, drinking water. Like, I know that it sounds so stupid, but it is so true. Like, the things that we need to feel better are here and available to us 90% of the time. If you go for a walk and you move your body and therefore move the energy, right? Move the emotions, and emotions are energy in motion. When we move that, it automatically changes things. Last time I checked, walking is still free. Right? Drinking a glass of water when you're not feeling, your brightest or lightest or happiest because you're maybe dehydrated, also free, more or less free, at least, more or less. Water is a conversation we could have, but I mean, whatever. But yeah, and taking a deep breath, all of these things are tools that you have available to you right now. Why are we so drawn to making things complicated? And here's the second half of the conversation that we're having today, because it's not just about the tools. Like, I think that most of us would be absolutely blown away by the amount of things that we already either innately or inherently know how to do, or the things that we have easy access to, but we don't necessarily make use of. Okay. Because we already have a ton of tools available to us. And if we really need help and support, there are so many ways to get at that for free. It is never going to be exactly the same as working with somebody necessarily, or like when you really make the investment and the desire and when I say investment, I don't just mean money. I mean also like the energetic investment and the time commitment to make a change. I think that really ups the level of what you achieve because you have a different energetic investment in the situation. But sometimes that's not always an option. And there are so many tools that are available to us that do not cost us anything, or that cost us very minimally, right? Because we could argue that YouTube is free, okay, but the internet costs, or you need to have access to internet, or you need to have access to a device to be able to like deal with those tools or interact with those tools. And that's also true. So the cost, though, is minimal. It's not necessarily the same as it would be to work with a coach or a therapist, to take a course, to go on a retreat, and so on and so forth. But we have these options. Why am I out of focus again? This thing hates my mic. It's just really frustrating. Sorry, guys. Today is not the day. This is also like the third time I have recorded this episode, or started recording this episode. Today is just... it is what it is, but whatever. Okay, so then what is the thing that most gets in the way of us making use of the tools that we have available to us? Do you want to guess? Should I let you guess? Oh yeah, it's us. It's definitely us. It's always us. Yeah, so the point here is basically that we have all these tools available to us, and we want the solution to be complicated. So we are telling ourselves a story about how the simple tools cannot possibly be the best ones for us. They cannot possibly be the best way to resolve this situation. Why are we doing that? It's not ultimately true, right? That's like Mindset 101. We're reframing this story. Is it true that the best tools are the ones that are the most complicated? No. Like, not at all. Like, not even close. Because even if you work with a coach or work with a therapist or work with within a course, or you buy a book or whatever it might be, you do a workshop, you go on a retreat, like whatever it is, a lot of the tools that they're teaching to you are something that we have access to, but we don't make use of, which is interesting. Why aren't we making use of them? Because we want those things to be complicated. We want the whole story and the whole experience to be complicated. Why? Why do we enjoy that story? Why do we want to and actively choose to believe that our healing, our wellness, our getting healthy, our whatever needs to be complicated? Let me tell you why. Because if something is complicated, and if something is hard, and if we struggle to do this thing, we can place the blame on that instead of accepting responsibility ourselves. It is not a particularly pleasant point of view, but I really want you to think about this for a second. How many times have you made the thing, and it doesn't matter what the thing is, more complicated than it needs to be? We are getting in our own way. We are getting in our own way in terms of probably every aspect of our lives, in all honesty, but also in terms of our personal development, which is like mind-boggling. It really is, because our personal development is something that we are only ever undertaking if we actually actively want to. No one is teaching us this in any of the traditional systems that we occupy in society, okay? We are not being taught this at school. We are not being taught this in our religious communities, as far as I'm aware of. Not the religious communities that I have been a part of or heard of. I'm sure there are some, but in general, it is not something that we are being taught there. We are not being taught this at work. We are not necessarily being taught this at home, though potentially more now than in previous years we are. So we are not embarking upon this path for any other reason than our sheer desire to. The people who are walking the path of personal development, who are here listening to this podcast, so I'm talking to you, you are here because you choose to be, because you want to be, right? Because this interests you, because you like it, because you feel like there's something that you want to change, because you know that there's another version of you inside just waiting to get out that you want to embody and you want to bring forth to share with the world. And that is so beautiful. And yet, we are the biggest things that get in our own way. And when it comes to making use of the tools and the things that we already have available to us without any extra effort and without any necessarily extra cost, we get in our own way because those things need to be more complicated in order for them to be valuable. I mean, it's insane. It's really insane, the things that we do to ourselves and the way that our minds work. None of this is true. None of it is true. There is not a single aspect of that story that I just retold that is true, okay? Personal development does not need to be difficult. You do not need to do something more in order to understand how to move forward. You absolutely do know, even though you continue to tell yourself that you don't. And you are able to just tap into a wellspring of information within you if you are only willing to, okay? Because even there, we have an inner knowing, all of us. We may have more or less access to that knowing, but we have it within us. We are able to sit and get quiet and ask ourselves for an answer, and you best believe it's going to come. It may not come right away, but it will absolutely come. And a lot of the times, the things that we need are so deeply simple, and we want to make them complicated, okay? We want to make them harder than they need to be. That doesn't mean, by the way, that there are not very specific aspects of personal growth or whatever it might be that we struggle with. Of course, I think all of us struggle in one way or another. Like, I know that I struggle with things too. And that is when we reach out a hand and we ask for help, right? And it's good to ask for help, and your progress will definitely be multiplied. You'll achieve your goals faster. You will get to the point or to that kind of understanding of what's holding you back or whatever faster if you work with somebody, because those people are a mirror for what you're experiencing. So you're not going through the situation on your own, and that is intensely powerful. But if you are in a triggering situation, you have tools available to you 24/7, 365 days a year that you can tap into if only you choose to. But we are so busy getting in our own way and telling ourselves that the tools need to be complicated in order to be worthwhile, or forgetting the simple tools because we're so focused on the complicated ones, that we just don't take advantage of the things that we have available to us right here, right now. And it really is that simple. What I mean by that is, it really is that simple to make another choice, to take a deep breath in a stressful situation. So why are we not able to do that? We need to build up the practice, okay? And I mean that practice in two ways. We need to build up the practice of remembering to take deep breaths in all occasions, including when we're relaxed, especially when we're stressed, obviously. But we also need to build up the practice of self-responsibility, sovereignty, and acceptance. What I mean by that is we need to be in a position where we are remembering our own power and we are taking responsibility for the things that are happening in our lives. All of it, all of the time, which is like the biggest pill. I hate this. I'll be honest with you. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hated it 20 years ago almost when I first got started off in personal development, because I'm almost that old and it really has been that long. I got into personal development when I was 18 years old and I'm 35. So it's crazy. Sorry, I just a personal aside. It is crazy to be at an age where I'm able to say things like that. But yes, so I've been in this world for like almost 20 years and it's just, I've lost my train of thought now. Today is not the day, friends. Like, I hope that you're enjoying this very human aspect of me, because like I'm doing my best, but it's an uphill battle today, friends. What was I saying? Oh my goodness. Okay. We need to make acceptance and we need to take self-responsibility for these things, because it's so easy to not want to accept the blame. And we don't want to accept responsibility for the things that are going on in our lives, because if we do accept responsibility for them, whatever they may be, it means that we need to be the person that then does something about them. And we don't wanna. Literally, we don't wanna. Stomp, stomp, wah, wah. We literally don't wanna. That's it. It's literally the adult version of a temper tantrum. We do not want to be responsible for the things that are not going right in our lives, because if we are, then we have to do something about them. And we do not want to, because it's more effort, because it feels like a lot of work, because we're tired, because we're stressed, because there's a lot of shit going on in the world on a regular basis. And adding this in doesn't sound like a whole hell of a lot of fun. And like, trust, I've been there. I have been there. I spent almost all of 2024 in this exact space where my energy, where my external environment was so incredibly triggering, and I literally felt like I was spinning plates of problems and just like not able to keep all of the things going while I was trying to find a solution to every possible problem in my life and in the world in general. That includes things like politics, that includes things like, you know, being in my relationship and having to navigate that. It includes my health and wellness. Like, I mean, every area was literally just out of balance last year. And the reason why it was out of balance was because I made a series of decisions that put me in that position. Now, I can sit here and I can blame a million other people and trust when I say that there was also a role that they played. Absolutely. There were other people, things that other people did, decisions that other people made that had an impact on what I was living externally. But my experience of that situation was my responsibility. My decision to stay in that situation when there were alternatives to leave that weren't pleasant. I'll be honest with you. The alternatives to leave were not pleasant, but my decision to stay was also my responsibility. So we can only blame other people up to a certain point. In fact, I would argue that to an extent we can't necessarily blame them at all, because the only person that's ever in control of us is us. And again, cycling back to this discussion about the tools. See, if the tools are complicated, and they tend not to be, I'll be honest with you, even when something seems like it's complicated, the complication that you're likely experiencing is your own resistance to actually doing the thing. The tools are very rarely complicated. And if someone is selling you something that makes it sound like it's complicated and you need to do like so many things in order to live well, question that, because question it. But it's not complicated, or it's not any more complicated than we ourselves are making it out to be. We have a choice in every moment to choose how we approach things, the intention with which we go at them, and also to choose our experience of them to a certain extent. Our experience is also impacted by the things going on around us in the world and so on and so forth. But we also have a lot of innate power to just choose the way that we are experiencing things. And that responsibility will set you free. Because when you realize that you are responsible for yourself, you are responsible for the story that you're telling yourself about your life. And in this case, the story you're telling yourself about the tools that you have available to you, then all of it becomes a lot easier because you change the story. Okay. So it goes from getting healthy is really hard, getting healthy is really complicated, to no, I realize that I'm responsible for this and I'm choosing for this to be easy. And I understand that you're like, how did I get from here? It's hard. It feels hard. That's my lived experience too. This thing gets to be easy. It is called choice, friends. And I know we don't want to hear that either. Again, for the same exact reasons, because it puts us in a position of needing to be responsible for ourselves. And we don't wanna. We don't wanna. We wanna blame somebody else. We wanna be pissed off at the world and the systems and the things that we are involved in, and like trust. Also, I too am pissed off at the politics, am pissed off at the system. Like, I get it. We have those moments as well, and we need to be kind and gentle and honestly reparent ourselves a little bit in those conversations. But it's okay that you're having that reaction. It's okay if you're feeling resistance to taking responsibility for your life. All of that is a part of the path that you're on. It's all a part of your evolution, and that's fine. But we do need to remember that at the end of the day, ain't nobody gonna save us but us. Ain't nobody gonna make our lives easier but us. We can all sit here and pray that we win the lottery, that the politicians get their shit together, that the economy sorts itself out, that, you know, your partner learns to finally pick up his dirty socks off the ground, or that your kids call more often, or whatever the thing is that is your thing. Why today am I so consistently out of focus? I'm sorry, guys. It's just been really rough. But anyways, we can hope that all of those things change. And I do genuinely hope, probably much like you do, that these things do genuinely change. And until they do, what is the alternative? To sit in misery, to blame the external world, to blame the way your parents treated you as a child, to sit endlessly in therapy navel gazing. Therapy is important. Yes, therapy is wonderful. Therapists are wonderful. There is so much value to be had from that experience. But if we are sitting there rehashing the same scene over and over again, the only thing we're doing is perpetuating our trauma. That is not something that I'm here for. I've done other episodes of the podcast on that. And you can just search for trauma wherever you look for a podcast, or within the page of my podcast, and you'll be able to find other episodes about that. But that's not what this is about, right? That's the alternative of not taking responsibility, is we just sit there navel gazing, blaming other people, blaming the circumstances that we're in, while we take absolutely no responsibility. And while we sit there with tools available to us to live and be better, feel better, live better, love better, whatever, move better, show up in the world in a deeper way, be the light, whatever your thing is, get healthy. I don't care. Get a new job. I don't care. Whatever your thing is, okay? We have tools available to us that cost us pretty much nothing. Meditation, sitting in silence, drinking water, taking a nap, getting a good night's sleep, getting in charge of your schedule, right? Learning to take a deep breath when the shit hits the fan. We have all of these things that cost us almost nothing, or literally nothing, and we're not using them because we want it to be hard, okay? And it doesn't have to be. There is no part of any aspect of your life that needs to be hard. There is no decree on high that says this is going to be preternaturally difficult for you. There just isn't. And so it's all about the choice that we make. And we have the power right now in this minute, something else that's also free, to make a different choice. We can choose to see these things as being easy. Let's have a quick conversation about this, and then we're going to finish up. When we choose to see something as easy, which is a belief that directly goes against the belief that we have had up until now, it is incredibly, incredibly important that we preface this belief, this new belief that we are trying to integrate, with a sort of quantifier to make it so it becomes true in our bodies. It becomes real. Because if you go from feeling like life is hard, difficult, complicated, frustrating, whatever, and then you just say, my life is easy, your brain, your body, your heart, all of that is saying like, wah, wah, like red flag. That's not true. That's not true because it hasn't been its lived experience, right? Your brain, your heart, your body has not necessarily had that lived experience up until now. And so we need to preface the new experience that we are trying to integrate by saying things like, I am ready and willing for life to be easy. I am open to the idea that life gets to be easy. I am in the process of making my life easier. It is possible for life to be easier. Okay, we're reframing those thoughts, making them a little bit softer so that they're easier for us to integrate. The blurriest video on God's green earth today, guys. I'm so sorry. I really am. And hopefully I managed to figure out like why that is ahead of filming the next episode, because like we are not, look at right up my nose. We are not. This is not a thing. So sorry, so terribly sorry. In any case, I really hope that this episode served you. Sorry that I was all over the place. Thank you for your patience. And I would love to connect with you more, deeper, better. And there are some really wonderful ways to do that. Number one, if you liked this episode, please subscribe to the channel or to the podcast or to all the good things. And if you liked this one in particular, if you could maybe like it or share it with a friend, that would mean so, so much to me. Every time that you share this with somebody or you like it, I mean, not only does it make my heart explode a little bit, but it just really fuels me in continuing. And I am grateful for this space to be a human. I think that today was a very, very human-y day for me. There were a lot of things that were not working, and my mind is maybe not as clear and straightforward as it normally is. So thank you for your patience, but I really hope that you got something good out of this. And if you did, again, all of those good things. The second thing I will say is that there are two ways to connect with me on a more personal level. One is via my Insight Timer group, and another is via my Telegram group. And I would love to have you connect with me in one of those spaces. Why? These spaces allow me to speak directly to you. You're able to ask me questions. You're able to respond to things that I'm posting there. I'm posting things that are different than the episodes just to go a little bit deeper. And it is just such a wonderful, wonderful way to connect. And so if that's something that speaks to you, I would love to have you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think you guys have had enough of me and whatever has happened today, technical difficulties aside. But yeah, I hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I hope this episode served you. I hope you still like me despite the mumbling and the bumbling and all that stuff. And I will see you on next week's episode. Ciao.